What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. 500 Bushwhacker time, and also 500 Bushwhacker time. We have here today the 7.5-inch Magnum Research BFR chambered in 500 Bushwhacker, awesome single action revolver, and then we also have the 20-inch Thompson Center Encore chambered in 500 Bushwhacker. Turn this thing into a super awesome rifle. We're going to be doing something very cool today. We have a 500 Bushwhacker cartridge, but it's a Black Talon 500 Bushwhacker. I'm almost positive none of you have ever seen anything like this before. You've seen Black Talons before, but not in 500 Bushwhacker. So the Black Talon is a very old cartridge. I believe it was discontinued in 1993. It was really cool, it was really popular, and then, you know, tragedy struck as far as politics. But people are used to seeing the 9mm version, 40 caliber, 45, things like that. Here is a 9mm, and here's a 44. Here's what we made into a 500 Magnum one time. We have a cool video on that, like I said. And then we have the 500 Bushwhacker, the new version. So the secret, if that's what you want to call it, is basically silver tip. Ranger T does it also, Winchester Defender, but silver tips for sure are pretty much a Black Talon without the paint. They might not be exactly the same, but they're close. This is a 50 caliber muzzleloader bullet, silver tip, and that's how we're able to go ahead and load it up into things like the 500 Magnum and the 500 Bushwhacker cartridges. That makes it really cool, really awesome. We can put a ton of power behind it and see what they do. This thing was super impressive in the 500 Magnum, the way it opened up. It was never intended to go to those velocities. And this silver tip projectile is definitely not meant to go to 500 Bushwhacker velocities, and it's really not meant to go to 500 Bushwhacker rifle velocities. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens to this projectile. We know what the Black Talons look like when they open up perfectly. We know what they look like now when we push them to 500 Magnum levels, but let's push them a lot harder. Now, we didn't go all willy-nilly and just decide to do something weird all by ourselves. I did seek the advice of TII Armory. They're very smart people. They are the ones that created the Bushwhacker. Those are two brothers doing really incredible things. I would check them out. Now, for anybody that doesn't know what 500 Bushwhacker is, let me bring you up to speed really quick. It's an awesome cartridge, like I said, developed by TII Armory. They took the 500 Magnum and lengthened it. These BFR cylinders, which is the primary firearm that is converted into 500 Bushwhacker, the 500 Magnum cylinders, they have a lot of extra space. They utilize that space to make a lengthened 500 Magnum into the 500 Bushwhacker. That's the easiest way I can explain it for most people, is just take the 500 Magnum, lengthen it, and now you have a whole bunch more case capacity. And in certain rifles that are able to take it, holy moly, add more power. Whether it's the pistol or the rifle, you have to have one of these brakes on there. That's just the way it is. It's a lot of power. I would never recommend, and they don't recommend, that you ever shoot these guns without the brake. A lot of people suggest it because they want to see recoil happen to other people. I don't think that they would actually shoot it themselves, but most people like to see other people get wrecked on the internet for some weird reason. Trust me, you don't want to do that, and you don't want to let anybody else do it that's near you. But the brake really does help manage things. When bullets engage at certain speeds into this brake, it really holds it down. It can make regular 500 Magnum much more shootable out of a firearm like this. And we've seen things like a 275 grain Barnes bullet barely rock this gun, but we know the velocity and foot-pounds are there, totally whooping 500 Magnum, but much more controllable. So now that you guys are up to speed on that, let's get to shooting this beast. I should probably explain the gel real quick before we shoot. We have 3 20-inch, 10% clear ballistics gel for a total of 60 inches of gel block. Now the 500 Magnum, the 44, things like that, even the 9mm, they make it pretty close to the end of this block, but nothing's made it out of the block yet. I don't think we would get through 2, but maybe. We just have the backup just in case. This one's been hit once before, it really doesn't matter. 500 Bushwhacker Black Talon going into the missile tube. Now my biggest advice for shooting one of these revolvers is just let it happen. Don't fight it, just let it happen. Just let it roll. Don't try to hold it super stiff arm or anything. These things are not bad to shoot. They're very enjoyable, actually. You just have to let it go. So with that said, I'm going to try to aim properly. Let's see what we do to the blocks. Let's try to catch a velocity. I'm about 10 feet off. I'll back up. Now I'm about 10 feet off of the block, probably 8 feet off that chronograph. We might or might not get a reading, but I don't want to miss that block. Single action. Here we go. That thing is bonkers. That thing is violent. We did not get a reading, of course. I'll try to get one chronograph for you. I was a little too close probably. I'll back up with a rifle. But what we have here is a mess. That thing picked that block up and threw it on the ground like it was no joke. And it left a mess over here. We can see that the projectile is buried into that block right there, or at least a tiny piece of it. Let's get this block cleaned up, get things straightened back out again, and see what we really have on our hands. All right, we cleaned the block up for you. It took a lot of work. We had to hose it off, dry it off, and then we had to actually melt the side so that you can see it. But wow, beautiful. Look what we got for you right there. Take a look at that. That is just an awesome wound channel. You see the bullet come apart 2 different times, and then it landed right back there. Let me get the measuring tape out. I mean, and right there at the beginning, we see a complete explosive entrance. You see that black charring in there? Something definitely happened. Now, when we come around to the side, we see that by the 5-inch mark, that massive, huge cavity right there that we're talking about, this thing right here, that ends, like I said, at the 5-inch mark, but then things keep going. We got a burst effect. That must be some of those petals coming out. Those go to 8 inches, but we still have the core wound track that's just tearing through, and it's doing a big wound track. The majority of that bullet, which looks crazy from here, this looks like some kind of a, I don't know, like a sea monster or something, but when you look down in there, totally expanded apart. I don't know what condition it's in at the moment, but it is sitting at 18.5 inches, 19 inches, pretty much takes up the 18 to the 19 inch. Then we have what's left of it right there at the end. So this thing came apart at the beginning, lost some pieces of itself, got to here, came apart again, and then whatever was left of this chunk, you can see that there's like a track underneath that chunk. So that must have come apart probably maybe at the 14-inch mark or something like that. They separated and went their own 2 ways, and whatever piece of chunk that was, wow, it made it to 20.5 inches with a poke back from 21.5. So even with all that power behind it, this Talon bullet, this type of bullet, the silver tip, whatever you want to call it, it just doesn't want to make it much past 20 inches a block because it expands. It just seems to compensate for the more velocity, the more expansion it gives, and then the penetration pretty much equals out. That is pretty nuts. This stuff all lands at just about the same place, but we still have to hit it with a rifle. Let's see what happens when we put even more power behind it. But first we have to look at the top. So coming in there, you see where a couple fragments had left. There were a few laying around. I'll try to find it again. But definitely had that massive wound channel going all the way down. You see that crazy looking projectile all wound apart and stuff, or unwound. And then passing on in to the next block with at least some of itself. So we'll get all this cut out later, but let's hit it with a rifle real quick. All right, I backed up a little bit. We're probably about 15 feet off that block, trying to get a chronograph reading. The lighting always stinks this type of day. Hopefully we get it. So, missile in the tube. Eye protection on. And something tells me that this is going to be pretty amazing. Yep, that moves some things around a little bit. And we have 2549, very nice. 2549 with a 400 grain projectile. Check out those foot-pounds. And once again, we have made a mess of the range. We like to destroy things here. I mean, that's what 2549 will do. We definitely picked one block up and threw it all the way over there. So here we go with a cleaning mission again. And it doesn't look like it made it into that second block. I'll give you that much right now. So let me get this cleaned up and put back up on the table for you. All right, we just got the 2549 out of the rifle. Let's see what we can get out of this revolver before we lose the light. So you can see the range is destroyed from the rifle. Let's see if we can destroy part of the backstop. I'm gonna try to get in the right spot. Ooh, that thing is crazy. 1841. Holy moly, we got that gel block cleaned up again, but this rifle with this cartridge, wow, that's a bruiser. Like I said, I just cleaned that gel block up for a second time and got a total bath, drying, and remelting of the edges again. That's where I'll ask you, if you really do think this video is cool, if you like what we're doing here, if you can give us a thumbs up and a subscribe and a share and all that good stuff. Share it with your friends for real, because we work really hard to bring cool videos out there, and it just helps if you share it, like it, all that stuff. It helps get it out to more people. And as you can imagine, this stuff is not cheap to do. We're not sponsored by anybody, so if you do feel compelled to help support the channel at all, we are on Patreon and we do have the join button turned on. We'll be adding more perks soon. Let's take a look at this gel block. Holy moly, take a look at that. First of all, we've basically cookie cut out that 50 caliber hole right in the middle, but that thing is a total exploder. I think we found the Liberty Civil Defense of the 500 Bushwhacker world. At least out of the rifle. Holy crap. I'm serious. Look at that. That's just an amazingly beautiful wound channel. You can see where we had the torching effect right in the middle. This thing immediately just destroyed itself. Something also very interesting to note is how this, watch this channel, it hit the bottom. We have a rubber mat under here to try to stop things from bouncing so much. But what it did is it actually made that projectile piece hit the ground or hit the bottom and bounce back up. So that thing still had a ton of energy after hitting that piece of rubber. And you notice back there, another one did it too. It came down kind of there and it bounced up. A little bit harder to see. But basically, this thing just completely exploded itself. It came in there and just went like, wow, bam. And you can see it from the top. Same thing. I'll come at this corner angle here. Some pieces did exit, but you have a whole bunch of different chunks. I found one piece that I'll show you real quick. This is one of the shards, one of many that have come out of the block. So that's one of them that we found rolling around on the ground. That thing is pretty sharp, and you can see there's many more in there. And like I said, a few left the block. But wow, total grenading effect. And that grenading effect, I would say, goes to 5.5 or 6 inches with more petals, or a couple extra pieces of petals going to about 8 inches. And that's pretty much where it stopped. I'm gonna investigate here a little bit at a weird angle that you usually don't see, but coming into the block, you can see the conical effect of how that stuff just shrapneled out of there. There's nothing really left of the bullet that went any deeper. This is our other track from the pistol, the 7.5 inch. But yeah, nothing else came out of this. It all exploded right there. Let's take a look from the top. All right, from the top, we see the same thing. If you take a look right here, this is just some completely like plasma burned, or whatever you want to call it, charred, melted gel that's in there. Here's a part that's kind of doing the same thing, but that's where we actually had an exit. That's where these little shards of metal, I mean, they're leaving burning hot. So really impressive. I'll try to get a couple different weird angles in here on it. You just see little pieces of metal here and there, but wow. Totally impressive, totally chaotic right there in the first, maybe third part of the block or something like that. But maybe, it looks like a quarter of a block, but man, that's just nuts. All that energy being dumped right there. That's a crazy amount of energy. So I'm gonna show you the weird angle here. You see the pistol's narrow and long, and there you go. It landed all the way up here. And then you see the conical effect of this thing just absolutely exploding out of the rifle. That velocity and that bullet do not get along. So we definitely found the failure point for the silver tip. But man, depending on what you actually were to hit with something like this, the crazy amount of damage that you could do is just insane. Now I'm about to dig the pistol bullet out of there, and remember, that thing, part of it stopped right there before the end of the block, but then another piece of it actually made it through. So this one will be easy to dig out. I can get that one with my fingers, I think. Let's see, wow, that's actually stuck in there pretty good. But there we go, there is what resembles a bullet. It actually has the base on it. So that is what's left after all of its talons, petals, whatever you want to call it. That was a huge bullet when it started. And now look what's left. All right, I got camera guy here to show you just how mangled this thing is before I get the rest of it out. I started to cut it out, and it's actually really hard to peel out. This thing is super peeled back. I actually have to be careful I don't cut the crap out of myself. But just bonkers. This is the copper jacket, or whatever jacket. I've never seen a Talon do that before. That's absolutely nuts. I mean, we'll get the actual measurement up top, but right off the bat, I'll go down to the whole inch end. But man, that is crazy. We got at least 1.5 inches of expansion here, and look at the sharpness. That's why I say Black Talon type of technology, because it really does look like that. I did cut myself getting it out of there. These things are sharp as can be. Wow, that's just amazing. Like I said, 1.5 inches, yeah, pretty much 1.5 inches. Now that core would have been sitting in there, so it lost itself. It came out. This kept going after all these pedals stopped it and put the brakes on it and turned sideways and whatnot. This kept going forward, but that all came out of this. You have the jacket, which is this, and the lead in the middle. So that got reduced to this and this. Absolutely nuts. It's really cool. I don't know, that's the coolest Black Talon test we've ever done. We can't recover the other one because that thing's just shattered into a bunch of pieces right now, but at least we recovered this one. This is super cool. I'll tell you what, I have so much fun with these two firearms, it's unreal. I'm not telling you to go buy one or anything like that, but you should definitely check out what they are. A lot of people think it's too much power, but again, it's controllable. You saw me shoot it. I'm not like Shaq, I'm not a huge person or anything. I can handle these firearms. A lot of you can also. Let me know in the comment section what you think about the 500 Bushwhacker, these specific Black Talon cartridges we made, and what it did to the gel and all that. What would you use that for? Either one of them, rifle or pistol. I think the pistol one is actually a viable hunting option. That thing would do some damage on a white-tailed deer for sure. As far as the rifle, I don't know, that would be very specialty application right there, or just for fun. I'm sure you saw it on video though, the fireball out of this thing is absolutely no joke. When I pull the trigger, all I see is a big orange ball. It's pretty cool. If you like this video, check out our 500 Bushwhacker playlist. We've already done a whole bunch with this cartridge. Hope you enjoy these type of videos. Thank you for watching this video, and until we see you next time, stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting. Maybe even some big bore stuff with monster brakes.